Ngai ho, and welcome to In Taiwan We Speak, your audio guide to Taiwan's mind-blowing linguistic diversity. I'm Alexander Shin, and this is the last part of our conversation with Lahok Ciwko, an Indigenous youth and a research assistant at the Indigenous Students Resource Center at National Taiwan University. And when it comes to non-Indigenous students, how do you talk to them about decolonization? Do you feel like youth these days, they are willing to sit down and listen and learn about this?
It's still a difficult process, but none of them don't want to learn. I would say depends on their major. Some social science background, they are willing to know this.
Of course.
Yeah. But if you like others, like
Computer science.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's hard to communicate or have a good conversation. But no matter which background they are, if they are non-Indigenous people, I think it's still quite hard for me to make them realize what is colonization, what is decolonization, because they even don't know they are privileged people. If they don't have this basic line, it's hard to start a conversation about this topic. So for me, I will try to make them know, put them into different scenarios. For example, when talking about this privilege, I would take like gender issue for the scenario. Like when talking about microaggressions, some supervisor they will say they are straight, but they will say, "Oh, I have many friends. They are gay or lesbians, or they are part of LGBTQ plus populations." So I would never do the thing that discriminative, but they use this word to protect their privileged identity. I mean, the heterosexual.
I cannot be a sexist because my mother was a woman.
So I try to use different scenario to make not Indigenous people to be more empathy to think about this topic, but another way. Maybe it helps, maybe not, but I have to try. Yeah,
that's true. Coming back to the topic of microaggressions that you said happens a lot, and I've actually read some of your blog posts and articles about it. In one of them, you're saying that before, with older generation of Indigenous people, right, they would be more humorous and more tolerant about microaggressions. They wouldn't, of course, know what microaggressions are. They would just laugh it out.
Yeah.
But now the youth is becoming a little bit more concerned about it. So what has changed?
It has changed.
Some might say, this is just a joke. Why don't we just laugh about it?
I think there's a very important concept that people live in their own context. So when talking about why we take the microaggression so serious, it's not a big deal. It's just like a joke. But the first thing we have to realize that back to the times my elders, they are facing the unsafe environment. For example, there was a policy that you cannot speak your mother language in Taiwan. So my auntie, our Banza language is her mother tongue. It's her first language she learned. And when she went to school and she just speak in Banza language, the teacher or the students, I forgot, they put a big signs. And the sign mentioned that I don't speak dialogue. So it's a very shameful policy to forbid people to speak their own language or their mother tongue.
Just to provide some context for our listeners, this happened for actually decades between 40s and 80s, right? When the Chinese Nationalist Party came to enforce the forcible Mandarinization of Taiwan. All the other languages were called dialects.
Yeah.
And people were forced, in schools, children were forced to wear signs on their necks, right? As you said, your auntie had to.
Yeah.
That is quite degrading.
Yeah. And before she told me that story, I thought it just like in the school. So after school, you can put a sign. But actually, it's not. She said that you have to take this sign to walk to home. So all the neighbors saw you, oh, you did a bad thing in the school. That's why you get a sign. So to take off this sign, you have to find another person who speaks non-Mandarin. So after my auntie shared her story when I doing my master thesis, she say, it's a very shameful experience she have ever had. Yeah, but not just only my auntie, even my grandma. Her neighbor just takes some stone to throw my grandma and say savage.
Oh, wow.
We didn't do anything wrong, but they have to take this and grow up, and those trauma cannot be told. As I say, back to the environment they face, they have to deal with this strong, unsafe environment because the government didn't. They think the indigenous should be like Han people, but now it's a different context. Now we talk about human rights, we talk about indigenous issue, we talk about everything because we care about different mention or different perspective or different area about rights. So now we don't allow people talking with discrimination. So we are not allowed to talk, oh, you are savage. Now it's not allowed.
So you can actually hold people responsible for aggression and discrimination. But before it was dangerous, right, for your ancestors to even speak out.
Yeah. So now we cannot speak that directly. But the core problem or the most important issue is that you still don't know what's different between you and me, different between indigenous or un-indigenous. So you just change your way to discriminate, saying something bad or unfair, doing something unfair to me by your body language, by something like, oh, it's just kind of joke. That's what we call microaggression. So I would say it's a different context, but we still suffer from racism. We can say that we are all survivor or warrior because we need to fight against to this unsafe environment. Yeah.
And could you maybe give us some examples of microaggression that in your experience youth these days still experience living in, especially in Taipei kind of places?
For example, like sometimes I take taxi to another place and the driver will say, oh, you look like, oh, you are indigenous, right? I will say, oh, yeah. Oh, you indigenous people get too much social welfare like policy, you can get some funding. Why do I say it's a microaggression? Because they use a tone like admire you.
All right.
They say, oh, I'm so jealous you are indigenous because being indigenous has mean you can get many resources, the money from the government. Another thing is, oh, you are indigenous, you must be good at singing. They use the stereotype about indigenous. Every indigenous person can sing, can drink, good at sports, and know their mother language. I mean, like Banza language. That you must know because you are indigenous. So I would say the stereotype is a thing where the microaggression come from. Actually, the stereotypes, there are different aspects, like can be positive, can be negative to a group or to a person, but everyone is different. You shouldn't think everyone is good at something because he or she belong to something. I would still say it's a stereotype. Some people say, oh, it's a good thing, I take it. But for me, I would say I'm not because I am indigenous, so I'm good at things. I'm like to sing and I'm practice singing, so I'm good at singing.
Also imagine an indigenous person who keeps hearing, why can't you sing? You're indigenous, right? You're not indigenous enough because your singing is bad.
Yeah, I really have some friends, they are indigenous, but they are very bad at, and it's fine. Yeah.
You did your bachelor's and your master's at National Taiwan University.
Yes.
And now you work there on improving the environment for indigenous students.
Yes.
What do you think, what kind of social reforms are needed in Taiwan to make sure that indigenous people don't have to deal with discrimination, including microaggressions that you talked about in the previous episode?
Maybe the point is that you have to have a deep self-awareness about who you are, because I found that some people may think, oh, maybe we provide more resources or class about indigenous, but it's not quite enough. If you don't know who you are, then how do you know others, especially if you are non-indigenous? as a privileged group. So I would say to make more friendly environment, I would say the first thing you have to do some critical self-awareness. Like, how do you know you are a male? How do you know you are middle class? How do you know you are mainstream society? If you know yourself, everything comes with context. Then you might know, oh, being mainstream society, you have already got lots of privilege that you really don't know because you just take it for granted. So I think this is the first thing. And the second thing is that you have to know you standing on indigenous land. Some people will so afraid of this statement because some people will say, oh, if I recognize it's indigenous land, should I go back to mainland China or else? But it's not a thing we stand for. We think that you have to be respectful to the land you stand on and to be respectful for the knowledge that indigenous people preserve the land, the environment, especially our ancestors. So I think these two very big thing, very important thing that you have to know you are a privilege and you are standing on the indigenous land. And this way is a beginning to make the society more friendly. The classics, the courses, the resources are still important, but it's not enough. I would say that I have this strong feeling about this because when I attend to conference internationally about, especially about indigenous issues, they would have a like land acknowledgement or acknowledgement of indigenous peoples. So the host will remind everyone the place you stand and who you are. But in Taiwan, we don't have that kind of things. So I think it's important to be a start point to reflect ourselves.
You mentioned that some people get scared of this. What kind of reactions do you see normally from non-indigenous people?
So around 2016, there is a law talking about traditional territory. So by that time, many non-indigenous people, they will leave the comment on a social platform, maybe Facebook at that time, or some news. They interview some people about their opinion about this issue. So I forgot who said that, but some people will say, if I recognize or if I admit indigenous traditional territory, that means I have to jump into the sea. Is that works? Yeah. Because when we talk about this act or this law, we want to protect our own territory. Doesn't mean that we don't want to develop, but we have developed with consent. But due to the law, some company they skip this process. So that's why we ask for this. But some non-indigenous people, they misunderstand it. They say something so weird thing. We didn't ask for everyone to jump into the sea
to
or
stop standing on the land.
Yeah. That's impossible.
Just for my information, which law are you talking about? 2016.
传统领域划设办法.
So it's basically it regulates that you need to obtain consent from indigenous people if you want to build something, right?
Yes.
Right, okay. My last question for our conversation is about hope, actually.
Yes.
Right? So in your work, you highlight the importance of both discomfort and resilience.
Yes.
Right, that comes from it. So what gives you the hope for the future of indigenous youth in Taiwan, especially those who are growing up like you in cities and far away from Hualien or Taidong?
I think there are always hopes because we have already survived for many generations. There's no reason we can live without hope. But what can the hope look like now in modern society? So for me now, still working in the Indigenous Students Resource Center, I think it's a connection because you are not alone. You are not the only person who care about yourself or your next generation or your elder. You find some people, they have maybe similar experiences or they have same faith. So then we can get together and we can have group to discuss what the future we want to be. I think it's kind of most important thing is that we have a strong connection, although we might from different group or have different childhood experience. We have a different, like for me, I grew up in the city. Some people might from the community, but we have the same thing, is that we want to make ourselves or our future become more safe, more culture appropriate. The second thing is that we have different tool now. Some people would say, oh, now we have internet, we have AI, we have something fancy thing for, especially for our older generation. They might be afraid of those new things. But for me, it's a very good thing to develop our future, because those things can help us to collect more stories we have never heard, or record the thing we think is very important. So I think we have more convenient and efficient tools to help us to build out or reconnect to our culture. Yeah, but it also has a dark side, I have to say. If the user are lack of like decolonization standpoint or perspective, or they ignore the history or the knowledge about indigenous, there might be another colonization. So, yeah, thinking positively, I would say the modern tool is another way of hope for me, but it still has its concern. So basically, I have a strong group, and secondly, I think the tools can help us. There is always opportunity to build up, to claim ourselves, to live in a safer place.
And on that hopeful note, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I hope everyone enjoy.
Dear listeners, we do hope you enjoyed, and next week we'll be waiting for you with a conversation on another one of Taiwan's fascinating languages, as well as various issues that concern their speaking communities. Thank you for tuning in.